The air smelled of salt and damp stone as Kaelen Veirit knelt among the ruins. His fingers brushed against fragments of pottery, their surfaces worn smooth by time. He had ventured far from Arindal, leaving behind a familiar scent of ink and parchment for this desolate place. The wind whispered through broken archways, carrying with it echoes of a forgotten past. Kaelen's eyes narrowed as he examined a shard etched with strange symbols. They were unlike anything he had seen before, jagged lines intersecting in patterns that defied logic. A faint chill ran down his spine, though whether from the cold or the mystery before him, he could not say. These ruins held secrets buried deeper than mere stones. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small notebook, carefully sketching each symbol. The task demanded precision. Even the smallest detail might hold significance. As he worked, the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting long shadows across the ground. Time seemed to stretch endlessly here, untethered from the rhythms of civilization. Kaelen paused, leaning back on his heels. A sense of isolation washed over him, one he had grown accustomed to over the years. Scholars often lived solitary lives, bound only to their books and thoughts. Yet, there was something unsettling about this particular solitude await pressing down upon him, as if the very earth beneath his feet watched and waited. He shook off the feeling, focusing once more on the fragment in his hand. It called to him, its cryptic language whispering promises of knowledge yet unknown. Night fell swiftly, stars emerging like scattered sparks above. Kaelen lit a lantern, its soft glow illuminating the page where he recorded his findings. The symbols danced under the light, almost alive in their complexity. He wondered who had carved them, what purpose they served. Was it warning, guidance, or perhaps something darker, an invocation meant to summon forces best left undisturbed? Such questions gnawed at him, fueling both curiosity and unease. As dawn broke, Kaelen packed his belongings and began the trek back toward Arindal. The path wound through dense woods, where sunlight filtered through leaves in dappled patterns. Birds chirped melodiously, their songs weaving a counterpoint to the rustling leaves. Despite the beauty around him, Kaelen felt no joy. His mind remained fixed on the fragment, replaying its enigmatic script again and again. By midday, he reached the outskirts of the city, its towering spires visible beyond rolling hills. Arindal greeted him with its usual bustle, merchants shouting prices, scholars debating theories, children laughing in narrow alleys. But Kaelen moved through it all like a ghost, barely acknowledging the world outside his thoughts. He sought refuge in the great library, a labyrinthine structure housing countless volumes of knowledge. There, surrounded by shelves groaning under the weight of history, he settled into a quiet corner to study the fragment further. Hours passed unnoticed as he pored over ancient texts, searching for clues to decipher the symbols. Some resembled runes used by distant tribes, while others bore traces of eldritch scripts thought lost to time. Each discovery brought new questions, expanding rather than narrowing the scope of his inquiry. Still, Kaelen pressed on, driven by an insatiable hunger for understanding. It was during one such session that Lyra appeared. She materialized seemingly out of nowhere, her presence unannounced until she spoke. "You tread dangerous ground," she said simply, her voice low but carrying an edge of authority. Kaelen looked up sharply, startled by the intrusion. Her appearance was striking, dark hair cascading over her shoulders, sharp features framed by piercing green eyes. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously, marking his place in the book before him. Lyra gestured toward the fragment resting on the table. "That text is older than you can imagine, older than your precious archives." Her tone carried neither malice nor kindness, merely certainty. "And it speaks of things man was never meant to know." Kaelen frowned, skepticism creeping into his expression. "I'm just trying to understand it," Surely knowledge cannot be inherently harmful. Knowledge itself may not harm, Lyra replied, but those who wield it without wisdom, they risk unleashing chaos. She leaned closer, her gaze locking onto his. History bears witness to such folly. Are you prepared to bear the consequences? Her words lingered in the air between them, heavy with implication. Kaelen opened his mouth to respond, but found himself at a loss. For the first time, doubt crept into his resolve, planting seeds of uncertainty that threatened to grow unchecked. When Lyra departed as suddenly as she had arrived, Kaelen sat alone amidst the library's silence. The fragment lay before him, its symbols now seeming less inviting, more menacing. He stared at them for a long while, wrestling with conflicting emotions. Was Lyra right? Could his pursuit lead to ruin? Or was she merely another voice seeking to deter him from truth? Resolved to continue despite her warnings, Kaelen gathered his materials and prepared for the journey ahead. Beyond Arindal stretched vast landscapes, each fraught with peril and promise. He knew little of what awaited him, save that answers would come only through perseverance. And so, with steady steps, he stepped beyond the city gates, leaving behind comfort and familiarity for the unknown. The road led him first through rugged mountains, their peaks shrouded in perpetual mist. Snow clung stubbornly to rocky slopes, forcing Kaelen to navigate treacherous paths with care. At times, avalanches thundered nearby, shaking the ground beneath his feet. Yet, even amid danger, he marveled at the stark beauty of the landscape, the way sunlight glinted off icy surfaces, transforming them into crystalline wonders. Each night, he camped beneath starlit skies, using flint and tinder to kindle fires that offered meager warmth against biting winds. Solitude became his constant companion, amplifying both his strengths and flaws. Moments of clarity alternated with bouts of self-doubt, each testing his resolve anew. Along the way, he encountered remnants of civilizations past, crumbling statues, abandoned temples, and faded murals depicting scenes whose meanings eluded him. One evening, seated beside a flickering flame, Kaelen reflected on his journey thus far. The fragment remained central to his thoughts, its mysteries tantalizingly close, yet frustratingly elusive. He wondered if he truly possessed the courage or the wisdom to uncover its secrets. Such musings kept him awake well into the night, his mind racing with possibilities. As days turned into weeks, the terrain shifted dramatically. Jagged peaks gave way to lush forests teeming with life. Rivers carved winding paths through verdant valleys, their waters reflecting azure skies above. Here, too, Kaelen faced trials not physical but emotional. Encounters with local villagers revealed glimpses of human frailty and resilience, reminding him of connections he had neglected in pursuit of knowledge. Among these people, he learned stories of old, tales passed down through generations. Some spoke of heroes who vanquished evil, others recounted tragedies born of hubris. Each narrative added layers to his understanding of the world, challenging assumptions he had long held dear. Slowly, Kaelen began to see himself not as an outsider observing events, but as part of a larger tapestry woven by countless threads. By the time he reached the final leg of his journey, exhaustion mingled with anticipation. Before him loomed an ancient temple, its grandeur diminished by centuries of neglect. Cracks spiderwebbed across once polished walls, vines snaked around columns, and moss carpeted every available surface. Within its hallowed halls, Kaelen hoped to find answers to the questions plaguing him. Entering the temple proved daunting. Shadows clung tenaciously to corners, obscuring sight and sound alike. Dust motes floated lazily in beams of sunlight streaming through shattered windows. Kaelen tread softly, mindful of traps laid by those who came before. Inscriptions adorned walls, their meanings obscure yet compelling. With painstaking effort, he translated portions relevant to his quest, piecing together fragments of a story greater than any he had imagined. At last, he uncovered the truth. The artifact described in the fragment was no mere object, it was a being of immense power, capable of altering reality itself. Created eons ago by beings whose nature defied comprehension, it had been sealed away to prevent misuse. Now, however, its prison weakened, allowing whispers of its existence to seep into the mortal realm. Realization struck Kaelen with force, leaving him reeling. What did this revelation mean for him and for humanity? Even as he grappled with these implications, signs emerged that others sought the artifact as well. Whispers carried on the wind hinted at rival seekers, individuals willing to stop at nothing to claim its power. Among them stood Thalor, a charismatic leader whose ambition knew no bounds. Tales of his exploits spread rapidly, painting him as both visionary and tyrant. Kaelen understood instinctively that confrontation loomed inevitable. In preparation, he delved deeper into the temple's archives, seeking strategies to counter whatever threats arose. Knowledge gleaned from ancient texts bolstered his confidence, though nagging doubts persisted. Could he truly stand against someone like Thalor? More importantly, should he attempt to wield the artifact's power himself, or destroy it entirely? These questions haunted him as he ventured forth once more, closing the distance between himself and destiny. The air grew heavy with tension as Kaelen traversed the final stretch of his journey. Whispers of Thalor's name echoed through every shadowed corner, each mention laced with equal parts admiration and fear. Villagers spoke in hushed tones of his followers, a growing army united by promises of prosperity under their leader's rule. Yet beneath these hopeful words lay darker truths, rumors of oppression, of sacrifices demanded to fuel Thalor's ambitions. Kaelen listened intently, piecing together fragments of information like shards of broken pottery. Each detail sharpened the image of the man he would soon face. A storm brewed on the horizon, its dark clouds mirroring the turmoil within Kaelen's mind. He had always believed knowledge was power, yet now he questioned whether such power could ever be wielded responsibly. The artifact's existence posed a profound challenge to this belief, forcing him to confront uncomfortable realities about human nature. Could anyone truly resist the temptation it represented? Or was destruction the only path to ensure its secrets remained buried? As night fell, Kaelen sought shelter in a small inn near the edge of Thalor's domain. Its walls were thin, allowing snippets of conversation from neighboring rooms to drift into his own. One voice stood out, a gruff but earnest tone recounting tales of battles fought and won under Thalor's banner. "He sees what others cannot," the speaker declared. "He reshapes the world to fit his vision." Listening, Kaelen felt a chill run down his spine. Such rhetoric was familiar, echoing warnings Lyra had issued earlier. Was Thalor merely another pawn in the artifact's game, or something more? Morning brought clarity, or at least a semblance of it. Kaelen rose early, packing his belongings with deliberate care. His satchel carried not only books and notes, but also the fragment itself, its surface cool against his fingertips. It seemed heavier now, burdened by the weight of all it symbolized. As he stepped outside, sunlight broke through lingering clouds, bathing the landscape in golden light. Nature offered no answers, only silent witness to the choices that awaited him. The first signs of Thalor's influence appeared shortly after leaving the inn. Roads widened, paved with stone rather than dirt, while fields stretched endlessly in either direction. Laborers worked tirelessly, their faces marked by both determination and exhaustion. Kaelen approached one group cautiously, engaging them in polite conversation. Their responses revealed much. They spoke of improved living conditions, yes, but also of demands that left little room for rest. Progress came at a cost, one many seemed willing to pay. Further along the route, Kaelen encountered a woman tending a roadside stall. She greeted him warmly, offering fruits and bread in exchange for coin. When asked about Thalor, her expression softened. "He gave us hope when there was none," she said softly. "But sometimes," her voice trailed off, replaced by a hesitant glance over her shoulder. Kaelen nodded understandingly, knowing full well the dangers of speaking freely in such times. By midday, the terrain shifted dramatically. Rolling plains gave way to jagged cliffs overlooking a vast chasm. A bridge spanned the gap, its construction impressive despite visible signs of wear. Crossing it required steady nerves. Wind howled ceaselessly, threatening to unbalance even the most sure-footed traveler. Halfway across, Kaelen paused, gripping the railing tightly. Below stretched an abyss so deep, its bottom vanished into darkness. Above, skies churned with restless energy. For a moment, he wondered if this crossing mirrored his inner state, a fragile connection between opposing forces, teetering perpetually on the brink. Reaching the other side, Kaelen found himself standing before a fortified gatehouse. Guards clad in polished armor barred the entrance, their expressions stern but curious. Upon closer inspection, Kaelen noticed subtle differences among them. Some bore scars indicative of hard-fought battles, while others seemed almost too young to have known conflict. Addressing them formally, he requested passage, explaining his scholarly pursuits without revealing specifics regarding the artifact. To his relief, the guards allowed him entry after brief deliberation. Inside the settlement, activity thrummed with purposeful urgency. Merchants hawked wares ranging from fine silks to crude weapons, catering to diverse needs of residents and visitors alike. Children played games near fountains, their laughter mingling with adult voices engaged in heated debates. Despite appearances of normalcy, an underlying current of tension permeated everything. People moved quickly, exchanging glances laden with unspoken meaning. Kaelen navigated carefully, mindful of drawing unwanted attention. Seeking refuge from the chaos, he entered a quiet tavern tucked away in a quieter district. Inside, dim lighting cast warm hues over rough-hewn tables and benches. Patrons conversed quietly, their discussions occasionally punctuated by bursts of laughter. Finding a secluded corner, Kaelen ordered a simple meal, using the opportunity to observe those around him. Among them sat individuals who clearly held positions of authority, men and women whose bearing commanded respect. They exchanged papers and maps, gesturing animatedly as plans unfolded. One figure drew Kaelen's gaze repeatedly, a tall man with sharp features and piercing eyes. Though seated casually, his presence dominated the room, demanding notice without effort. This, Kaelen realized, must be Thalor or someone very close to him. Watching him interact with subordinates, Kaelen noted traits described earlier. Charisma combined with calculated precision. Yet glimpses of cruelty lingered just below the surface, hinting at complexities beyond initial impressions. Leaving the tavern later that evening, Kaelen felt certain of two things. First, Thalor embodied both allure and danger, qualities likely instrumental in rallying support for his cause. Second, confronting him directly would demand far more than mere intellect. Emotions, too, would play crucial roles in determining outcomes. With resolve strengthened by reflection, Kaelen prepared for the inevitable encounter ahead. The gatehouse loomed ahead, its stone walls weathered by time and conflict. Kaelen approached cautiously, his footsteps echoing softly against the ground. Guards watched him with wary eyes, their hands resting near sword hilts. He offered a courteous nod, speaking clearly despite the nervous tremor threatening to betray him. "I seek audience with Thalor," he announced, though the words felt heavy on his tongue. The guards exchanged glances, murmuring briefly before one stepped forward. "You may wait here," the guard replied, gesturing toward a bench nearby. Kaelen complied, settling into the hard wood as patience became another trial to endure. Around him, the settlement bustled with activity traders shouting prices, artisans hammering metal into shape, children darting between legs in playful pursuit. Yet beneath this surface vitality lay currents of unease, whispers carried by the wind that spoke of darker days ahead. Time passed slowly, marked only by shifting shadows cast by the sun. Eventually, a figure emerged from within the compound, a man clad in simple yet elegant robes, his presence commanding attention without need for adornment. This was Thalor, Kaelen realized instantly. Close up, the leader's charisma proved undeniable, his sharp gaze piercing like an eagle's. When Thalor spoke, his voice carried authority tempered by charm. "You wish to speak with me?" Kaelen rose, bowing slightly in acknowledgement. "My name is Kaelen Veris. I am a scholar seeking knowledge of matters tied to your endeavors." His tone remained measured, betraying none of the turmoil churning inside. Thalor studied him for a moment, then motioned for him to follow. Together they walked through winding corridors adorned with tapestries depicting scenes of conquest and triumph. Each image told stories of ambition fulfilled, yet also hinted at costs paid along the way. Reaching a chamber bathed in soft candlelight, Thalor gestured toward a chair. "Speak freely," he invited, seating himself opposite. Kaelen hesitated briefly before producing the fragment from his satchel. Placing it carefully on the table between them, he explained its origins and significance. Thalor listened intently, his expression unreadable until Kaelen finished. Then, leaning forward, the leader asked, "And why should I trust you with such information?" "I offer no guarantees," Kaelen admitted honestly. "Only the truth as I understand it. What you choose to do with it rests solely upon your shoulders." Thalor nodded thoughtfully, picking up the fragment to examine it closely. For several minutes, silence reigned supreme, broken only by flickering flames casting dancing shadows across the walls. Finally, Thalor set the artifact down, his decision made. "Your honesty intrigues me, Kaelen. Few would dare approach me so openly. Tell me more about these secrets you claim to uncover." Thus began a lengthy discussion during which both men probed each other's intentions and beliefs. Through careful questioning, Kaelen gauged the depth of Thalor's ambition while revealing just enough to maintain credibility. By evening's end, mutual respect had taken root, fragile but promising. As they parted ways, Thalor placed a hand on Kaelen's shoulder. "We shall meet again soon," he promised. Kaelen nodded, aware that whatever bond formed tonight might prove fleeting or enduring depending on future choices. Returning to his quarters, he reflected on the encounter, recognizing how much still hung in balance. Tomorrow promised further revelations and perhaps confrontation, but for now, rest beckoned as solace amidst uncertainty. Morning arrived swiftly, sunlight streaming through narrow windows to chase away lingering shadows. Rising early, Kaelen prepared himself mentally and physically for challenges ahead. Breakfast consisted of plain fare bread, cheese, and water, but satisfied basic needs sufficiently. Outside, the settlement stirred to life once more, its rhythm steady and purposeful. As he ventured forth, Kaelen noticed subtle changes since yesterday. Heightened security measures, increased patrols, and whispered conversations exchanged among citizens. His destination today lay beyond the settlement's outer walls, where ruins similar to those near Arindal awaited exploration. Guided by vague directions provided by Thalor's aides, Kaelen followed winding paths leading ever deeper into untamed wilderness. Trees grew taller here, their branches intertwining to form natural canopies, filtering sunlight into dappled patterns below. Birds sang melodiously overhead, their songs blending harmoniously with rustling leaves. Upon reaching the site, Kaelen discovered remnants of an ancient structure partially buried beneath layers of earth and vegetation. Inscriptions carved into surviving stones matched symbols found on the fragment, confirming relevance immediately. Crouching low, he began documenting findings meticulously, noting variations in style and content that suggested multiple creators over extended periods. Hours slipped past unnoticed as focus consumed all else. Mid-afternoon brought unexpected company in the form of two figures approaching silently from behind. Startled but composed, Kaelen turned to face them, both strangers yet bearing insignias identifying allegiance to Thalor. One introduced himself as Arindal, advisor and confidant to the leader. His companion remained silent, observing keenly but contributing nothing verbally. Arindal expressed interest in Kaelen's discoveries thus far, requesting detailed explanations regarding connections between current investigations and broader implications concerning the artifact. Reluctantly, Kaelen shared insights gained thus far, omitting critical details instinctively. Satisfied for now, Arindal thanked him graciously before departing abruptly, leaving Kaelen alone once more amidst crumbling stones whispering secrets of ages past. The artifact revealed itself slowly, its essence unfurling like dawn, breaking over distant mountains. Kaelen stared at the fragment, now glowing faintly with an inner light, as if alive and aware of his presence. Symbols shifted subtly, their meaning slipping through his grasp like water through fingers. This was no ordinary relic. It pulsed with consciousness, a being trapped within form. His breath caught as realization settled heavily upon him. The artifact could reshape reality, bending existence to its will, or perhaps that of whoever controlled it. Arindal's earlier visit lingered in his thoughts, mingling uneasily with this new revelation. If Thalor learned the full extent of the artifact's power, what would he do? Would ambition blind him to consequences, or might wisdom temper his actions? Kaelen doubted the latter. Power rarely came without cost, and history bore witness to countless tragedies born of unchecked desire. Yet here he stood, holding knowledge capable of altering the world forever. He rose from his crouch, brushing dirt from his hands. Around him, the ruins whispered secrets carried by the wind. Each gust seemed laden with voices of those who had come before, urging caution yet tempting curiosity. Destruction or salvation, both paths lay open, their outcomes determined by choices made in moments such as these. Kaelen felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, heavier than any burden he had borne before. Returning to the settlement, he found tensions running higher than ever. Whispers spread rapidly, fueled by rumors of rival factions seeking the artifact for themselves. Some claimed Thalor sought only peace, while others painted him as a tyrant, eager to impose his will upon all. Truth remained elusive, obscured by layers of bias and fear. Kaelen navigated cautiously, mindful of drawing attention but unable to ignore the growing storm. That evening, summoned once more to meet with Thalor, Kaelen entered the leader's chambers braced for confrontation. Instead, he found Thalor seated alone before a roaring fire, his expression contemplative. "You've uncovered much," Thalor said without preamble, gesturing toward the chair opposite. "Tell me, scholar, what have you learned?" Kaelen hesitated briefly, choosing words carefully. "The artifact is not merely an object," he began, recounting his findings in measured tones. "It possesses sentience, capable of influencing reality itself. To wield it requires immense restraint, and even then risks abound." He paused, meeting Thalor's gaze directly. Do you truly believe yourself prepared for such responsibility? Thalor leaned back, studying him intently. Responsibility implies choice, he replied after a moment. And choice demands understanding. That is why I seek your counsel, Kaelen. Together, we might unlock possibilities beyond imagining. His voice carried conviction, yet shadows flickered beneath his calm exterior. Doubt gnawed at Kaelen, whispering warnings born of Lyra's prophecy and his own misgivings. Could trust exist between them, or was this merely another gambit in Thalor's grand design? He chose silence, letting questions hang unanswered in the air between them. Time passed unmarked, broken finally by Thalor's sigh. Very well, the leader conceded. Perhaps some truths must remain hidden until ready to emerge. Rising, he motioned for Kaelen to follow. They walked together through quiet halls, their footsteps muffled by thick carpets. Outside, night cloaked the settlement in velvet darkness, stars scattered across the sky like fragments of forgotten dreams. Reaching a secluded balcony overlooking the chasm, Thalor gestured expansively. Look upon this land, he urged. See its potential, its promise. With the right tools, we could forge a future unmatched in history. His enthusiasm was palpable, infectious, almost, but also tinged with desperation. Kaelen nodded politely, keeping his thoughts guarded. As they parted ways, Kaelen reflected on the day's events. Knowledge gained brought clarity but also complication. Every answer unearthed raised further questions, each decision point demanding sacrifice. Sleep came fitfully that night, dreams haunted by shifting symbols and shadowy figures reaching out with clawed hands. Morning arrived sooner than expected, sunlight piercing curtains to banish remnants of slumber. Breakfast consisted of simple fare again, though today's meal tasted bitter despite its plainness. Outside, activity continued unabated, though an undercurrent of tension permeated everything. Guards patrolled more frequently, their expressions grim and determined. Citizens moved quickly, exchanging hurried glances filled with unsaid fears. Kaelen ventured forth once more, drawn inexorably toward the ancient temple where initial discoveries had been made. Its walls loomed ahead, imposing and silent, waiting patiently for visitors brave enough to enter. Crossing thresholds into shadowed interiors, he marveled anew at intricate carvings lining corridors. Each image told stories of creation and destruction, cycles repeating endlessly across eons. Deep within the temple, he encountered another chamber sealed tightly against intrusion. Using skills honed through years of study, he unlocked barriers both physical and metaphysical, revealing contents long concealed. Within rested scrolls and tablets, bearing additional fragments of the artifact's story. Translating hastily scribbled notes illuminated connections previously obscured, painting a fuller picture of the entity's origins and purpose. By midday, exhaustion weighed heavily upon him, muscles aching from prolonged effort. Rest became imperative, though fleeting. Seated amid scattered papers and artifacts, Kaelen closed his eyes briefly, allowing brief respite before continuing onward. Progress demanded persistence, even when fatigue threatened to overwhelm resolve. Emerging later, he found himself intercepted by a messenger bearing urgent news. Rival seekers approached swiftly, their intentions unclear but undoubtedly hostile. Time grew short. Decisions required swift execution. Returning to the settlement, Kaelen prepared for whatever awaited next, knowing certainty existed only in uncertainty itself. The confrontation loomed closer with each passing moment, its inevitability pressing down on Kaelen like a physical weight. He stood at the edge of the settlement, watching as dust clouds kicked up in the distance, signaling the approach of Thalor's rivals. Their arrival promised conflict, not merely between individuals, but ideology's power versus restraint, ambition versus caution. Kaelen felt the fragment's faint glow against his chest, hidden securely beneath layers of cloth. It pulsed softly, as if aware of the storm gathering around it. Thalor emerged from the gatehouse accompanied by Arindal and several guards, their presence forming a silent barrier between him and potential threats. The leader's expression remained calm, though an edge of tension tightened his jaw. "They come for what we protect," he announced, voice carrying authority despite the situation's gravity. Kaelen nodded silently, stepping forward to join the group. Though untrained in combat, his knowledge of the artifact made him indispensable. As the rival faction drew nearer, details became clearer. At their head rode a woman clad in armor bearing intricate designs, her helm adorned with feathers signifying high rank among her people. She carried herself with confidence, reins held loosely in gloved hands. Behind her followed warriors, armed variously with swords, bows, and spear-saw, prepared for battle should negotiations fail. When they halted within speaking distance, silence fell over both parties, broken only by hoofbeats echoing faintly. The woman dismounted gracefully, addressing Thalor directly. "You possess something that belongs to my kin," she declared, tone measured yet firm. Her accent marked her origins as distant lands, places untouched by recent conflicts. "Return it now, or face consequences." Thalor raised a hand, palm outward in a gesture of peace. "This matter is not so simple," he replied evenly. "The artifact holds dangers beyond your understanding." Her lips curled slightly, revealing skepticism. "Dangers? Or opportunities?" she countered sharply. "We have lived alongside such power for generations, respecting its boundaries while harnessing its gifts. You, however, seek dominion, not balance." Her words struck home, resonating uncomfortably close to truths Kaelen had grappled with himself. Before Thalor could respond, she turned her gaze toward them, piercing through any pretense. "And you, scholar, what role do you play in this?" Kaelen stepped forward, meeting her stare without flinching. "I seek knowledge, nothing more," he stated clearly, "but I also recognize the risks involved. This artifact cannot be wielded lightly or selfishly." His admission earned nods from some members of Thalor's entourage but drew scowls from others. The woman tilted her head thoughtfully, considering his words before responding. "Knowledge carries responsibility," she agreed finally, "yet wisdom determines how it is applied." Tensions escalated as neither side appeared willing to yield. Whispers circulated among followers, suggestions murmured urgently into ears of leaders. Kaelen noticed subtle shifts in body language, a guard relaxing stance slightly, another gripping weapon, tightroll indicators of decisions nearing culmination. Then, unexpectedly, Thalor extended an olive branch. "Let us discuss this further under safer conditions," he proposed. "War benefits none. Perhaps compromise exists where none see it yet." Reluctantly, the woman accepted, motioning for her troops to remain behind while she advanced alone. Together, the four entered the gatehouse, leaving uncertainty hanging thick in the air outside. Within, discussions unfolded heatedly but respectfully, each participant presenting arguments rooted in personal beliefs and cultural values. Kaelen contributed insights gleaned from studying the artifact, emphasizing need for caution above all else. Hours passed unnoticed as perspectives clashed and merged, gradually shaping tentative agreements. By evening's end, terms had been outlined tentatively. Joint stewardship of the artifact, overseen by representatives from both factions, ensured neither side monopolized control. Knowledge gained through study would benefit all equally, promoting cooperation rather than competition. While imperfect, these arrangements represented progress, a step toward preventing catastrophe born of greed or ignorance. Exhausted but hopeful, Kaelen retired to his quarters, reflecting deeply upon events transpired. Compromise proved difficult yet necessary, demanding sacrifices from everyone involved. Trust remained fragile, built painstakingly brick by brick amidst ruins of past failures. Sleep came eventually, dreams filled with shifting landscapes symbolizing transformations occurring not only externally but internally as well. Morning arrived briskly, sunlight filtering through partially opened shutters to chase away lingering shadows. Rising early, Kaelen prepared himself mentally for challenges ahead. Breakfast consisted again of plain fare, though today's meal tasted sweeter somehow, flavored by small victories achieved yesterday. Outside, atmosphere within settlement shifted noticeably, tensions eased somewhat, replaced cautiously optimistic anticipation. Venturing forth, he encountered citizens engaging openly with one another, exchanging ideas freely despite differing backgrounds. Children played together near Central Square, laughter ringing clear against backdrop of rebuilding efforts already underway. Progress manifested subtly but surely, testament to possibilities when collaboration triumphed over division. Kaelen smiled faintly, recognizing signs hope taking root amidst fertile soil of shared purpose. Reaching Temple later, he delved deeper into archives, seeking answers regarding artifacts through nature. Each discovery added layer complexity, challenging assumptions formed earlier stages investigation. Symbols, once thought static, revealed themselves dynamic entities interacting continuously across dimensions unknown mortals. Understanding deepened incrementally, piecing together puzzle vastness defied comprehension fully. Afternoon brought visit unexpected guest. Lyra reappeared suddenly, materializing quietly corner room where Kaelen worked intently. Her appearance startled him momentarily before joy recognition softened features. "You warned me wisely," he acknowledged gratefully. "Without your guidance, path chosen might lead ruin." Lyra nodded solemnly, gaze locking onto his meaningfully. "Paths taken shape, choices made," she responded cryptically. "Still waters run deep. Ensure yours flow pure intentions." Conversation continued briefly before parting ways amicably, leaving Kaelen pondering implications spoken words. Returning settlement later, he found preparations underway, grand ceremony celebrating newfound alliance forged recently. Music filled streets, dances twirled rhythmically under watchful eyes. Elders, unity celebrated openly, bridging gaps once seemed insurmountable obstacles. Evening concluded festivities, fireworks, illuminating night sky, brilliant display colors. Standing balcony overlooking chasm, Kaelen watched streaks light fade slowly horizon, mirroring internal journey undertaken thus far. Resolution awaited, still final chapter written, yet foundation laid strong enough weather storms ahead. With resolve strengthened reflection, he returned quarters rest, ready whatever dawn brought next. The artifact rested quietly in its chamber, its faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Kaelen stood before it, hands clasped tightly behind his back. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily upon him, yet he felt a strange calm amidst the turmoil. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of his journey. He had seen the dangers, understood the risks, and now faced the ultimate decision: destroy the artifact, or let it remain, hoping wisdom would guide those who sought it. Thalor joined him shortly, his presence silent but commanding. "You have much to consider," he said, voice low and measured. Kaelen nodded, acknowledging the statement without words. Around them, the air seemed charged with anticipation, as if even the stones themselves waited for what would come next. Time stretched thin, each second dragging on endlessly. A messenger arrived then, breathless and urgent. "Rival factions approach again," he reported, bowing briefly before continuing. "They demand immediate resolution." Thalor dismissed him with a wave, turning back to Kaelen. "Your choice, scholar," he urged. "What shall we do?" Kaelen closed his eyes briefly, centering himself before responding. "We must act swiftly, decisively. Let no one else bear this burden." With deliberate care, Kaelen retrieved the fragment from within his robes, placing it gently beside the larger artifact. Symbols flared brightly, reacting to proximity. Whispers filled the chamber, soft murmurs carried by unseen winds. He reached out, fingers brushing cool surfaces, feeling energy surge beneath his touch. This was not merely destruction, it was liberation, setting free what should never be bound. The process began slowly, requiring focus and precision. Chanting ancient phrases drawn from texts studied over weeks, Kaelen wove spells designed to dismantle rather than harm. Light intensified, casting long shadows across walls etched with forgotten histories. Beside him, Thalor watched intently, offering silent support, though untrained in such arts. Together they worked, channeling combined willpower toward singular goal. As final syllables echoed through empty halls, a blinding flash erupted, consuming everything within chamber's confines. When light faded, only silence remained, broken eventually by distant, applause citizens celebrating perceived victory outside settlement gates. Kaelen staggered slightly, drained but resolute. Sacrifices made ensured safety, albeit at cost personal fulfillment. Returning to Arindal proved bittersweet. Streets welcomed familiar sights, smells, yet absence, artifact left void, difficult fill. Scholars greeted him warmly, eager here, tales, adventures, discoveries beyond city limits. Yet Kaelen spoke sparingly, sharing details cautiously while guarding truths best left untold. Knowledge gained transformed him fundamentally, shaping perspectives altered forevermore. Days turned into weeks, routines re-established gradually. Libraries offered solace once more, their endless shelves providing comfort, stability amid shifting sands reality. Still, moments solitude brought reflection, memories haunting softly edges consciousness. Had he done right? Could anyone truly know? Questions lingered unanswered, reminders humanity's perpetual quest understanding. One evening, seated alone beneath starlit skies, Kaelen opened small box containing single-shard salvaged ruins, initial discovery. Its surface bore faint traces, original script, remnants, beauty complexity, destroyed act necessity. Holding it carefully, he realized some mysteries deserved remain unsolved, their secrets safeguarded against hubris folly. Such acceptance brought peace, unexpected measure. Life continued onward, paths diverging, converging unpredictably. Kaelen embraced role-seeker eternal, ever curious, yet tempered wisdom hard-earned experience. Stories told retold generations hence, preserving lessons learned hard way. And so, cycle repeated anew, ensuring balance maintained fragile equilibrium world, ever-changing yet timeless essence.